It was supposed to be the perfect getaway, after months of long work hours, never-ending city noise, and life just grinding them down. Ethan and his three closest friends, Sarah, Mike, and Chloe, decided to rent a mountain lodge for the long weekend. It was Sarah's idea, booked on some obscure travel site she found late one night. The listing described a secluded cabin at the edge of Hollow Ridge Forest, with panoramic mountain views and the serene silence of untouched nature. It was cheap, too cheap, but Sarah shrugged it off. "Maybe the owners just need the money," she said. "Besides, look at that view." The drive up took them most of the day. The winding mountain roads seemed to spiral forever, the trees crowding in closer the higher they went. When they finally arrived, the sun was dipping low, casting long, jagged shadows across the road. The cabin stood alone at the edge of a steep slope, its back windows facing miles of dark pine forest. From the outside, it looked old. The kind of old where the paint had long peeled away and the wooden panels were warped from years of rain and snow. The front door creaked open far too easily when Mike turned the key. Inside, the air smelled faintly of damp wood and something else, something metallic. They unpacked quickly, trying not to notice how cold it felt inside despite the mild weather. The living room had a massive stone fireplace, but the firewood stacked beside it looked damp, as if it had been sitting there for years. Sarah busied herself making tea, while Chloe wandered to the back of the house. You guys need to see this," Chloe called out. They found her standing in front of a massive window overlooking the forest. The view was stunning, endless trees swaying in the evening breeze, but Chloe wasn't looking at the scenery. She was pointing at a strange structure in the woods. At first, it looked like just another tall tree, but no. It was thinner, straighter, almost like a wooden pole. Around it hung scraps of fabric, fluttering in the wind, maybe clothes. "What is that?" Mike frowned. "Probably some hunting thing," Sarah guessed, "like a marker or something." But as the last light faded, the thing in the woods became harder to make out. And before they could study it further, night swallowed the forest whole. They ate dinner, drank wine, and tried to laugh about how creepy the place felt. Still, the sound of the wind rattling the old windows kept breaking the conversation. Around midnight, Ethan got up to use the bathroom. As he passed the back window, he froze. The wooden pole in the forest was gone. He blinked hard. Maybe it was just the darkness hiding it. But no, the spot was empty. Trying to shake it off, he went to bed.
The next morning, the forest was quiet. Too quiet. No bird calls, no rustle of small animals, just wind. They decided to hike down one of the nearby trails. The trees grew so dense it felt like they were walking through a tunnel. Occasionally, they saw strange symbols carved into the bark. Rough circles with an X through them, sometimes smeared with what looked like dried rust. They joked about mountain cults, but didn't linger. By the time they returned, the clouds were low and gray. That's when they noticed something new. Hanging from the front porch railing was a small bundle wrapped in cloth, tied with twine. Sarah picked it up, unwrapping it despite Chloe's protest. Inside was a bird, dead. Its eyes pecked out. They stared at it, disturbed but unsure what to do. Mike tossed it into the woods and muttered, "Screw this place."
The wind picked up after dark, howling through the chimney. They lit the fireplace, the damp wood hissing and popping, and tried to focus on a board game. Around 11 p.m., they heard it. A slow, deliberate knock at the back door. They all froze. The knock came again, 3 times. Ethan grabbed a flashlight, crept to the kitchen, and peered through the glass. Nobody was there, but there was something on the doormat, another cloth bundle. He didn't open it. He just left it there, locking every door and window. That night, Ethan dreamt of the forest. He was standing among the trees, staring at the pole again, except now there were 3 of them, each draped in long strips of what looked like skin. Something moved between them, tall, thin shapes that swayed unnaturally, their faces hidden by stretched leather masks. When he woke, he could still hear the wind. But beneath it, a faint sound, breathing, from the hallway. By morning, Sarah was acting strange. She was pale, her eyes bloodshot. "Did any of you come into my room last night?" she asked. They all shook their heads. "I swear someone was standing at the foot of my bed. I couldn't move. I just watched them." They tried to convince her it was a nightmare, but she barely spoke the rest of the day. When evening fell, Mike announced he was driving back to town for supplies and maybe a motel. The others agreed to pack up while he was gone. He never came back. By 10 p.m., the storm outside was raging. Rain slammed the roof and the trees groaned in the wind. Chloe tried calling Mike again, but got nothing. Then through the back window they saw it. The wooden pole had returned. Only now, there were two. And something hung from them. Even through the rain they could see. It was Mike. Sarah started screaming. Ethan yanked her away from the window, locking the back door again. They huddled in the living room, the firelight flickering wildly. That's when the knocking started again. Slow. 3 knocks. Then silence. Then 3 more, louder this time. Ethan shouted, "Go away!" But the knocking came from every door now. Then the windows. The sound of hands, dozens of them, slapping and dragging across the glass. And then, the voices. Whispers, low and frantic, in a language they didn't understand. Sarah clamped her hands over her ears and started rocking. The lights flickered. The fire died. The front door swung open on its own. Shapes stepped inside, tall, thin, faces hidden under stretched, wet leather masks, their arms too long, fingers curling like hooks. Ethan tried to move, but his body locked. He could only watch as the things glided closer. One of them leaned down to Sarah, pressing its mask to her face. She let out a muffled scream, and then went silent, her body going limp. The others surrounded Ethan and Chloe. The last thing Ethan saw before darkness swallowed him was the masks and the faint glint of teeth beneath them. The lodge at Hollow Ridge went back up for rent a few weeks later. The listing didn't mention the missing guests. It didn't mention the strange bundles left on the porch. It didn't mention the way the forest seemed to shift after dark. And it certainly didn't mention the masks, waiting patiently in the attic.